another weekly wrap-up where I share with you the comics / trades and graphic novels I've read for the week. One of the things I want to start out by saying before we get into the books I read this week, I just want to throw it out there that I'm trying to make these videos so that it's easier for you guys to find like comic recommendations. That's why I'm trying to include in my cover, my thumbnails, try to fit in as many books as I can for, the thumbnail, so you can kind of have an idea of the general books I'm reading that week. Sometimes I only know maybe 3-4 books in for that week, so like, of course, if you've been watching these for a while, you know I film them as I go during the week, so it's not all done in one sitting. So that's why the cover photo may not always represent the entirety of the books I've read for the week, because sometimes I just don't know past 3 or 4 books what I'm going to read further in the week. Also, if you're only looking to see, what books, but you don't want to sit through a whole 15-20 minute video, that's why I have included my blogspot posts down in the info for each video. So if by chance you just want to know what books I read, you can either follow me on Goodreads, or you can click the link to the blogspot post in the information, and it will share with you which books I read, so that way you know if you want to watch that video or not. And of course, those little thumbnails in the Blogspot link, they go to Amazon and they let you know like how much they are. I figured it'd make it easier for you guys if you want to, see exactly what is in a video before you watch it. Anyways, the first book I read this week was Black Hole by Charles Burns, and a recommendation from Goodreads. It was not in the recommendations where, they give you 50 books they recommend. It was something like, I read something else, and then this came up as, because you read this, you should check out this book. So I'm thinking, because it's so massive, I was thinking that this was going to be one of those books that was going to be, this great, and then, like, I saw the ratings on Goodreads, and everybody, it's almost like a almost 4-star book, but it's like a 3 point something now. It's not quite that much. Well, anyways, I'm going to go into why I think it's called The Black Hole. It's about a bunch of teenagers, and it's all from different perspectives on this group of teenagers. And I think it's called The Black Hole because it's really not easy being a teenager. It's kind of tough being a teen, especially if you're a teen that doesn't really fit in with the majority of other teens. Like, maybe your peers just think you're weird or you're different. Maybe you're a dork, you're a nerd or whatnot. And these kids, what happens is they, there's an STD going around, and they call it the bug. And some of these kids end up getting the bug, and what it does is it mutates them in different ways. You never know what's going to happen if you sleep with somebody who has the bug, which kind of reminded me, it's like herpes or something. Like, they're forever disfigured by sleeping with somebody. And one of the characters is so desperate. He's a virgin, but yeah, his hormones, and he just wants to sleep with a girl, and he's so desperate to sleep with a girl and have a girlfriend that he's willing to get this bug. I thought that was kind of weird, and I gotta be careful what I show you guys, because this is definitely a mature read. It's not safe for children. But yeah, it's very graphic in detail. There's a lot of sex, a lot of violence. And it mostly has to do with, being an outsider teenager. I think that's the main reason why the author wrote this. I didn't think it was a 4-star or 5-star book. It was just okay. It had a lot of plot holes. The artwork does look nice, but there's a lot of plot holes. Like, they never explain, where does this bug come from? Like, why does it make these kids, like, mutate and turn into these, like, disfigured people? They never explain that. And Not only that, the artwork is decent. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's all in black and white, though, which I'm not a big fan of black and white. But yeah, I mean, it was just an okay read. There was good character development, and sometimes this is where the artwork comes into play. Sometimes it was kind of hard to tell the difference between certain characters, unless they showed their disfiguration. Then you could kind of figure out who they were talking about. But yeah, some of the characters just looked really too similar, so it was kind of hard to keep track of who was who. But yeah, it was an okay book. I know that a couple of people on YouTube have read this and they thought it was a really great read, but I'm going to give it to you straight, guys. It's just an okay read. I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. It really was not that great. You see, there's a lot of like this symbology that looks like vulvas. You see that a lot in this book. So like the author, the artist, or whatever is kind of obsessed with vulvas, because there's a lot of those like imagery of that in this book. But yeah, that's what I thought of this one, and like I said, I'm kind of careful as to what I share with you guys in this because it's very graphic. But yeah, feel free to check it out if you want. Okay, the next book is How to Be Happy by Eleanor Davis. I was thinking and I did one of those things that they always tell you not to do, judge a book by its cover. I saw this really flashy cover and I was thinking, yes, this is going to be a great graphic novel. Well, no, I was sadly disappointed. What it is a collection of short stories. And yes, they are beautifully drawn in some instances. She does these like wood block cutouts, like prints and certain stories. But this one, the first story is like some post-apocalyptic future, and there's a group of survivors, and they're trying to say that they should go back to being like Adam and Eve in order to survive and everything. And everything just kind of cuts off, like the stories never really finish, and they're just all kind of like partial stories. Like, they're really short with not a lot of substance. So it's kind of like a lot of random thoughts. That's why I was thinking how I'm being so critical of this, because when it comes to any story, you want to have a good story. You don't want any plot holes. You want characters to be developed. You want it to lead someplace. You don't want any plot holes. And you want it to have a great ending. See, now this book lacked a lot of that stuff, and because it's a graphic novel, it has to have more than just great art. And that's what I was thinking when I was thinking about how I was going to review this, was that with graphic novels you have to be even more critical because it's more than just great art. If I was going to say just on the great art, I would say that this was a great book, but the stories were really lacking. So just based on that, I only rated this 2 out of 5 stars. I just didn't think it didn't meet up to my expectations. I think it does have like a higher than a 3 average rating. And yes, it does look cutesy. It looks like it's good art. If you want to pick it up just for the art alone, then yeah, it's good for that. But story-wise, it's really lacking. Got Batgirl Volume 5, Deadline. This one I rated only 3 out of 5 stars because there were parts that I really liked and there were parts that I really hated. It starts out following the Gothopia storyline that was in Detective Comics, I do believe was the last issue I read with Gothopia in it. And it touches upon some other storylines going on in the Bat books, like about the vampires, and it crosses over with I, Vampire, so you see the main character, I, Vampire. It also has some other like DC characters in it, so I thought that was pretty cool. There was some like main event called Nightfall or whatever, and that was in here too. Some of it was pretty cool. And then they had another story near the end, took place 5 years in the future, and it was the League of Batgirls, which I thought was kind of neat. It was kind of cool to see that. There's a backstory with Birds of Prey. Poison Ivy was involved in that one. And it was a different side of Poison Ivy I'd never really seen before. I thought that was kind of neat. So it was just okay. I mean, a lot of these newer New 52 books just seem to be, they're okay. And I could see why they're doing Convergence because, you know, what are you going to do when your stuff starts to get meh, you know? That's that. Okay, up next we have Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2. This is a Spider-Verse prelude. And if you guys have been watching my videos for a while now, you know I've been talking about the Secret Wars. Well, this is another part to the Secret Wars, the Spider-Verse. Basically, if you remember, there was the Others storyline. Well, anyways, these vampire people they're basically spider hunters. And what they do is they go across the multiverse looking for Spider-Man in order to, like, basically take the Spider-Man's life force. The first part of this story starts up with a Marvel team up, the Spider-Man and the new Miss Marvel, who is the, I think she's Turkish. I didn't really think that was necessary to be a part of this book, but I still thought this was a great story just because it's the Spider-Verse. I mean, it's pretty cool seeing all these different incarnations of Spider-Man and how they plan on teaming up together. But one major plot hole that I really didn't get was the Superior Spider-Man, who is Otto Octavius, Dr. Ock, is still inhabiting the body of Peter Parker, which we all know he killed himself. He sacrificed himself. So I don't know if he's like an alternate Superior Spider-Man that just stayed on or what. I just don't know how they're going to explain it because it doesn't make any sense. Even with those flaws, I still thought this was a great story and I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it just for the sheer fact of seeing the many varieties of Spider-Man that there are in the multiverse and how they plan on working this out. I really can't wait to finish reading this story. Next up we have Avengers Prime. This features the core members of the Avengers team, Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man. This takes place shortly after the Civil War, and there's still a little bit of hatred between Captain America and Iron Man. Well, anyways, they magically get teleported while they're inspecting the remains of the Rainbow Bridge. They get teleported to an unknown place. They don't know where they are. They're separated from their iconic things like Cap doesn't have his shield, Iron Man doesn't have any power in his suit, and Thor loses his hammer. So they have to rely on their natural strengths to try to figure out where they are, get back together as a team, and to battle their way back home. I thought this was a great story just for that reason, and it featured some villains who I haven't seen in a while, such as Hela and the Enchantress and all that, and Fafnir the Dragon. I really enjoyed it. I thought the artwork was great. And it was a fast-paced story that didn't have a lot of, like, overly, you know, it wasn't like dialogue that didn't add to the story. So I really appreciate that when a comic book has a lot of action and dialogue that pertains only to the story. I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. If you are a fan of the Avengers, I think that you will like this too. Okay, and I think this is where I'm going to wrap up my last book for the week because I have a busy weekend ahead of me and I don't think I'm going to be able to read another book in time in order to get this like uploaded and all that. So yes, this week was a little bit shorter than previous weeks, but yeah, okay. So let's get on with the last final book. We have Uncanny XMen, The Good, The Bad, The Inhuman. And of course, this is Scott Summers' Cyclops' team, which is in a remote location. They're in an old Weapon X facility, and the original all-new X-Men, the original X-Men, are living with them. And this takes place just before they get kidnapped by the Shi'ar, for Jean Grey being the Phoenix and the Phoenix Force and all that, and the trial of Jean Grey. It takes place just before that. So aside from that, there isn't really too much going on in this book. It's just mostly training and exercises for the students. There was one story that was kind of really blah. It was a girls' nights out thing with the female mutants go out on the town shopping and all that. So I really didn't feel like this was that great a book. When you got towards the end of the book, the artwork gets really interesting. And I'll have to show you some of that because that really made this story for me. It saved it from making it a 2-star book, let's say that. But anyways, yeah, so this is some of the artwork. They must have changed artists right before the next volume or whatnot. But yeah, I really think that's cool. And of course, the rest of the book is just like the sketch pages for the, the volume. So I thought it was okay. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. It just wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. Like, the previous volumes were much better. And I really don't know what direction this series is going in because I'm not reading up-to-date comics. I mean, I haven't even checked out the Uncanny XMen or what they're doing with the Secret Wars thing. So maybe that would be interesting to find out what exactly is going on with this title. But I don't know. So that is my latest Comics Weekly wrap-up. I hope you guys found some books that you could check out and that you would enjoy. If you've read any of them, let me know down below what you thought of the books. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I'm always down to read new stuff, and I get a lot of recommendations since I work in a library from some people there. But yeah, thanks for watching. Till next time, later guys.